When Maruti launched the 4th Gen Swift priced between 6.5 lakh to 9.5 lakh, it did make a lot of people wonder, hang on a minute, if I'm gonna pay that much money, why not get the bigger, more premium, more powerful Maruti, the Baleno? It's a very valid question and it's a question we'll be answering in this video. The Baleno seen here is the Zeta trim, which is the second from top but is well kitted in terms of price and is actually cheaper than the top spec Swift seen here. Design wise, you can easily tell who is up in the hierarchy. The Swift has that typical sporty look while the Baleno looks like a more premium offering. Length, width and wheelbase are the areas where the Baleno trumps the Swift, but it loses out on the overall height thanks to its swooping design. Both cars get LED headlamps, but the Baleno sits on bigger 16-inch wheels as opposed to the 15-inch ones on the Swift. Some like the matured styling of the Baleno, while some prefer the sporty and racy look of the Swift, but do let us know down in the comments which one would be your pick. Now inside the Maruti Swift, you have a lot of part sharing, especially with the Baleno, the power window switches, you have the switch gear for the HVAC. It is quite familiar. However, what's not familiar is the overall vibe of the interior. It is all black apart from a few silver garnishes. But the premiumness that you get on that car is missing. Now in terms of equipment, you do get a fair bit: wireless charging, a USB type A port. Touchscreen is really nice, 9-inch, and you get everything that you need in here. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you get Alexa connectivity as well. So it does have a lot going for it. The steering is nice and sporty as well, flat bottom. There's a fair bit of piano black here too. However, the seat comfort is very good. Nice and soft, typical of what you expect of a Maruti. And the driving position is very nice as well. The seats go a fair bit low, and that means if you want a nice sporty position, you can get that with this car. The other new bit is the instrument cluster, which is nice and sporty, especially the ref counter. Looks really premium. However, the speedometer could have done with a bit more premiumness because compared to the older car, it doesn't feel as special. Now into the back seat of the Maruti Swift, and space for one isn't the best, especially when you compare it to the Baleno. It also has 70 mm less in terms of wheelbase, so knee room and leg room do struggle a bit. Headroom is just about adequate even if you're over 6 feet. And overall the seat comfort is not too bad. The seats are nice and soft. That said, in terms of equipment, you do get air vents at the back and you get a Type C port and a USB A port. But overall, space back here is best for 2-3 people here will be a snug fit. If you want to carry 5 in a car, the Baleno is the better choice. Into the Maruti Baleno, it definitely feels like a more upmarket car, a bigger car, and that's largely due to the space and the roominess that you get in the cabin. Apart from that, the switch gear is more or less the same as compared to the Swift. So the power window switches, the switches for the HVAC is all the same. However, the dashboard design is quite different. You have a lot of layering here, a lot of elements. You have this dark blue panel, a silver panel, sandwich between the black and the dark blue. So it breaks away the normal monolithic design and it definitely looks upmarket. The instrument cluster also is quite nice, very simple and easy to read, but the silver rings around the dials definitely make it nice and premium as well. Steering wheel more or less the same, so not a lot of difference here. In terms of storage space, the Baleno is slightly better. You have a larger glove box, you have some space in the center console, and more importantly, you have a driver armrest as well. That adds to the overall comfort. Seats are very similar to the Swift, so nice and soft in terms of cushioning and quite accommodating as well. So overall, in terms of cabin quality and just the overall space in the cabin, the Baleno is definitely better. On the Zeta trim, you have a smaller 7-inch touchscreen but still gets CarPlay, Android Auto and a reversing camera as well. But if you go for the Alpha, you'll get a bigger screen, a 360-degree camera and a heads-up display too. And in the backseat of the Baleno, things are not too different. It is a bigger car overall. It has a better wheelbase as well. So space inside is quite nice. Knee room is very good. Headroom is definitely better than the Swift. And seating 3 at the back will be an ease over here. You also get rear AC vents, a USB Type C and a USB Type A port, just like on the Swift. The Baleno, being the bigger car here, is also better on boot capacity with 318 litres compared to the Swift's 265 litres. But the Swift's calling card has always been driving dynamics, but is it the same with the new engine? Now, while there are many similarities when it comes to the interior and the features of the Baleno and the Swift, where they are very different is with what's under the bonnet. The Swift gets a new Z12E engine, a 3-cylinder engine, still a 1.2 litre but a 3-cylinder, and it is also low on power. Compared to the older car, it's 8 horsepower low at 82 horsepower. And well, you don't really feel that, to be honest, and it's not like you'll notice it, especially driving in the city, because the response is quite good and Maruti has tuned it specifically for better low-end response, which means in the city and off the line it is better than the older car. However, if you're expecting that nice free revving engine that you had with the older car and the Baleno, then that is not what's in here, because as soon as you get past the 3000 RPM mark, there isn't much to talk about, and it definitely has lost its sporty and enthusiastic appeal. It is still pretty nice to drive, but you cannot ring the engine on this car. Now, this is a 3-cylinder engine, and that means the one thing that jumps at you first is the refinement. Honestly, it's not really too bad. Especially at low speeds, you won't feel a lot of vibrations. Yes, there are slight thrums in the cabin, but it is only when you push the engine hard is that you notice that it's a 3-cylinder. The engine is audible in the cabin, especially past the 3000 RPM, where the older car sounded nice and sweet, a bit raspy as well. This one definitely brings out its 3-cylinderness. Then you have the 5-speed AMT. Now, as far as AMTs go, it is very good. It's one of the best actually, and shifts as a result are relatively smoother. But yes, there is a bit of a head nod every now and then, and if you push this, there is a fair bit of delay as well. The AMT also gets a Triptronic function, which means you can slot it into M mode and get a bit more control of that gearbox. All you have to do is tug along the lever, and yes, responses aren't exactly precise, but it still is a bit more control than you get in the D mode. In terms of ride quality, the Swift always had a very balanced ride. It was nice and comfortable in the city, and things with this one are not too different. Low speed bumps do unsettle it slightly, but once it picks up pace, it's nice and confident and very well contained as well. In terms of handling, the steering is nice and light, and compared to the older car, it's not too different. It still has that fun to drive appeal, but where it loses out is in the engine department. Now into the Maruti Baleno, and powering it is the 1.2 litre K12N engine, 4-cylinder, the same engine that you got on the older generation of the Swift. And the one thing that jumps at you first is just the refinement, because even though the 3-cylinder is not too bad, this is a whole different level. Vibrations are very well contained, and what people absolutely loved is its free revving nature. Sure, the Swift has a slightly better bottom end response, which means initially around 1200 to 2000 RPM, it is really nice and responsive. But once you get past the 2000 RPM, the needle on this one pulls nice and clean all the way up to 6000. And the exhaust, I mean, of course, it's not a sports exhaust, but the engine definitely doesn't feel strained or coarse like you do on the Swift. It is such a gem of an engine, and it's such a shame it's not there in the Swift. Now, even when it comes to the performance, that extra 8 horsepower that you get on the Baleno definitely translates into better times: 0 to 100, 20 to 80, and even 40 to 100 kph. These figures are not up to Autocar test standards, but have been measured uniformly for both cars, and it is evident that the Swift trails behind in terms of acceleration. Made it to the 1.2 litre K series engine is a 5-speed AMT, just like you have on the Swift. And well, again, it is a similar tune setup where it's nice and easy once you're up to pace, but low down you will feel that head nod. But it's a small price to pay for the huge convenience you have, especially in traffic. And on the topic of ride comfort, the Baleno is better as well. It is a much softer setup, so bumps are tackled with much ease. However, when it comes to handling, it is the Swift that takes the edge. It is much more sharper, and because it's a smaller car, it just turns tighter, and that's always nice. What got everyone curious and confused between these cars was the price. In the past, the Swift was significantly cheaper than the Baleno, but with the new one, the lines are blurred. Top spec variants of both are apart only by 39,000 rupees. And for that extra, you get a larger screen on the Baleno, fog lamps, a 360-degree camera, wireless charger, and a heads-up display. But if you can do without these, the Zeta trim seen here is a good 56,000 rupees cheaper and screams incredible value. Add to that the extra space, better performance and a premium dealership experience with Nexa, and the scale easily tips towards the Baleno. It is the better car all round, and for that price an absolute no-brainer.